The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGig webinar series, our endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is Agile Transformation. And our guest speaker today is Anand Bhartiya. He's a lead consultant at iGate. Anand Bhartiya is an IT management professional with notable success directing a broad range of projects, bringing in over 16 years of experience in delivery management and consulting. He has proven ability in managing software development and enhancement projects. He has spent most of his time working with top Fortune customer engagements, pre-sales and consulting to application development and delivery engagements, agile architect heading, methodology transformation, customers initiatives, and owner of Agile COP3 lead development programs and projects in multi-geography and multi-vendor scenarios, providing process and methodology improvement models to customers at executive leadership level. So, without further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speaker. Over to you, Anand.
Thank you, Aradhana. Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning to everyone. I guess people have dialed from different geographies on this webinar. Thanks everyone for joining the webinar on Agile Transformation. So we all know that we have been started with a big journey from moving from waterfall, that is a traditional way of working in the development methodologies, to an iterative, incremental approach, and that's where we moved on to Agile in 2010 with more effects. Okay, and the predominant highlights, and probably everyone on the call would know, but just for the people on the phone who are less aware, the very basic benefits of Agile is continuous visibility, higher predictability, and better control over execution of projects. So it helps us give speed to the market, better ROI, and all the good things that's applicable to the projects. And when I say just Agile, it's not just Agile. It can be even waterfall on some of the projects where we cannot really move on to Agile journey for some of the very critical phase projects. Okay, so as we talk about Agile journey, where we know that in the past years the trend has increased dramatically on the utilization or use of Agile. Okay, so if you look at one of the survey that was conducted by version 1, we would understand that 90% of the respondents have indicated that they have plans to use Agile in the near future, whereas 84% is currently using Agile in their current projects or the programs they are running into. And this is a 4% rise compared to what was a survey conducted by version 1 in the prior year, and 4% rise in different practices using Agile. It's a good increase. And as you can see on the right side, Scrum is the predominant used practice across the development area. As we can also see, there is a hybrid kind of approach that has been adopted, and as we move further to an Agile ecosystem, right, we would see that Kanban, Scrumban is also getting adopted into the maintenance support kind of an area as well. So why are people moving, or the organizations moving to an Agile? So top 3 benefits that we clearly can see is ability to manage change priorities. So the market is changing very dynamically in terms of the applications, digital platforms and things like that. So we are meeting that changing requirements and priorities on an ongoing basis, and that's 90% of the time we are doing good. We have increased productivity, and we have also seen good visibility in terms of how we are able to manage risk, in terms of transparency across the customers or various stakeholders within the organization. So these are not just the three benefits. There are more benefits that we can see, and if we talk about just a few more to add, we have seen reduction in the schedule impacts. So if we talk about releases, we have seen better releases that we have delivered on time, and the effort overrun has reduced. We have also seen quick realization of benefits over the investments made by the customer. Okay, and as a few things that I already talked about is better risk management and catering to the market needs on a priority basis, right? So as we talk about this, right, there are many areas within the organization that gets impacted when we are moving to Agile. So we can reap these benefits. We can avail all those benefits by moving to Agile. But what are the changes needed at an organization level that needs to be done so that there is a smooth transformation of methodology to an Agile area, right? So let's first look at the Agile Manifesto, which also gives us certain areas, impacted areas, and to look at from a transformation point of view. So I'll just briefly read through this, and then we'll come to more details on what are the impacted areas here. So individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, responsive to change over following a plan. So we are putting emphasis on the left side rather, and we are not saying that we are not going to do or follow a process tools, or we are not going to do contract, and we are not going to plan. So we are going to do all this, but we are going to do this in a different way, right? So as we talk about all this, right, what do you think is getting impacted, right? So the Agile Manifesto itself is indicating as the areas which is getting impacted: people, process, tools that we are using, right? We are regarding planning and control. When we are talking about customer collaboration, we are also talking about communication. We are talking about contract negotiations. So we are talking about vendor management when we are talking about moving into an engagement where we need to deliver something using Agile methodology, right? So if you look at this in a very holistic way for an organization, it would call for a complete organization change management, right? And there are various levers to move to organize on this change management. So if we look at what is getting impacted, it's people, process, communication, collaboration. We are also talking about infrastructure, right? We are also talking about how we are going to scale as we increase the development capabilities, and we are going to initiate new programs. How we are going to scale if we are going to use Agile? What are the tool sets that we are going to use for automation in different areas of life cycle, right? So let's talk about people here. People with a different skill sets, which would need awareness of the process. Okay, they would need a complete cultural shift in terms of how they would perform, a flexibility to be shown in terms of a change, right? At the same time, commitment towards delivery with the right quality on the spot and continuously, right? So, and that's where when we are talking about people, we are also talking about the HR processes aligned to those group of people who are moving into Agile. And at the same time, when we are talking about HR, it's a organization change that is going to happen with a skill sets, various other parameters to support their work, right? We talk about processes, a very simple process, very lean process that we need to adopt. We need to define that process first. We need to align it to the required objective of this transformation. We need to pilot into a particular area. And at the same time, we need to scale it. As we talked about, if we are going to increase the delivery teams from one to multiple across different vendors, across different geographies, right? At the same time, the process would also need training associated to changes in the process, changes in the reports that are going to get generated, changes in the artifacts that we are going to document, changes in the roles that we are talking about from a people's point of view, right? So a broad level of changes when we talk about the processes as well. Communication and collaboration is a very key area when we talk about Agile transformation. We are talking about delivering projects in multiple geographies, working with different vendors across different time zones, right? So communication becomes a big challenge when we are moving into an Agile where we need frequent communication, collaboration with our partners, with our customers, and the vendor partners as well, right? So you should have the right tools to communicate. You should have video conference. You should have telecom facilities. All that is needed to ensure that there is right communication happens at the right time. And this would need a huge change from an infrastructure point of view as well. Your internet lines may not support video conference or having a webcam on the developer's machine, and that's where the bandwidth is going to eat up. So there's an infrastructure change needed there. At the same time, the developers, testers will need more environments to work on, because every 2 weeks we are expecting a delivery to happen, right? So I need a test environment, I need a system integration environment, I need a UAT, I need a performance testing environment. So there is a huge change in the way we look at from an infrastructure point of view, right? At the same time, when I talk about this, this becomes an area where people wants to, have to sit together in their location they are working on, right? And even in the distributed environment, the team at one location should sit together, and that's where the sitting arrangement should be aligned. People should have remote accesses. So again, an infrastructure issue, how people can connect remotely if they are not able to reach office or some other issues that they run into, right? So that's going to impact on our scalability factor also. So we talked about scalability, where we are going to increase the people count from one team to multiple teams across vendors, across geographies. So licensing is an issue when we talk about scalability again. Last area with, and probably not the least here, is the automation across the life cycles. So it starts from your code reviews, and it can continue to a code continuous deployment, build, integration. So every aspect where we can do an automation, we should invest there, and that's where the transformation cost gets impacted, right? So there are 8 focus areas that I specifically look at when we are looking at a change management process. So these 8 areas, as you can see on the focus areas, it's management commitment, IT governance and demand management, organization change management, work environment and infrastructure, training and awareness, lifecycle activities, project governance, project monitoring and control, right? And this is these 8 areas very critical and runs from top to down. A very top-down approach where we start our drivers with business values. So what is that business value we are going to deliver to the customer? And that's where a change in mindset is needed from a management standpoint. We are looking at a complete ecosystem to be changed, moving your development, maintenance, shared services, infrastructure, all moving into an agile direction. So I cannot raise a ticket which has an SLA of 3 weeks where my development is supposed to be done in 2 weeks sprints. That's where your infrastructure comes into the picture, shared services, DBAs, all that has to change when we are moving to that. The essence is that we are looking at customer engagements throughout the project execution, right? So customer needs to be involved with the delivery teams on a day-to-day basis to understand where we are, get queries clarified, and many more things on from a day-to-day basis standpoint. It's a very drastic shift when we talk about interactions over the processes rather than on the people, right? So if there's a complete shift happens when we're talking about empowering the people working on the projects than just relying on the processes. If you talk at a program level, right, there are emphasis to experience and expertise in the team members. So multi-skilled people needs to be involved into a team. And I have an example where I reiterate this to whenever I have a session, that a developer jumping into a testing shoes is probably easier, whereas the testers jumping into a developer shoes, right? But I have examples where we have the testers moving into a development area, if not fixing the code, at least analyzing what the issue is about, where the code problem is, right? So there is a complete shift in how the teams are aligned, how the teams are motivated to do that. So that talks about our roles and responsibilities with changes, and that needs to be definitely awarded or appreciated. At a program level, we also talk about the tools to be used from a reporting standpoint or from a continuous build, do an automation stuff in a regular SDLC cycle. So that's how we reduce the cycle time of delivery, right? And that's where there is a good emphasis on having J units and N units where we can understand the code quality, check styles and things like that, which can review the code. There are tools available which would also look at the performance of the code written. There are tools available for understanding the security issues within the tools. So all this needs to be factored in when we are looking at tool stacks for a given technology. So that's where we can look at automation. So, and when we talk about top-down approach, there is a trust factor that comes in from a management point of view. Even customers, right? If the customers are looking at us and they don't trust in these partners, then there is a big issue, and that's where we kind of have a discussion. We have a change management initiative in terms of understanding what is it going to be reported, what is okay with them, what should change over a period of time, and it's a gradual approach, right? It cannot change on a day one. So trust and transparency needs to be brought in. Another focus area is delivering working software, and that's where when we are saying working software, we are talking about the business value that we are going to deliver to the customer. In the first iteration or the first sprint, I may not deliver any business value, but as I progress in the next sprints or the future sprints, business is going to look at what is that value I'm going to get out of this delivery? So every 2 weeks, what is the value that I'm going to get? And that's where the prioritization of the backlog is very important from a customer viewpoint, looking at the business value being delivered. Matrix reports and reports that get generated from a monitoring continuous viewpoint of view. Again, it should be driven from the tool sets that we are using. There can be certain tools that may not be integrated. For example, if I'm using a tool set which has complete traceability of requirements to the defects and so forth, then it's the best to have it. But maybe customer cannot put so much of investment across the tool sets. So there can be manual reports that needs to be generated, but keep it very simple in terms of what is expected out of it. Your velocity, your release burn down, your defect matrix. So keep it very simple and an effective way of measuring things, measuring your progress, right? Frequent feedback is again very important from all levels. We are talking about the team, we are talking about program management, we are talking about the executive stakeholders within the organization. So feedback needs to look in from top to bottom and bottom to up. So that's a continuous cycle that needs to be there. If it's not there, then definitely there are going to be hiccups with the transformation or in the continuous delivery when the Agile is completely adopted. So team, organization, stakeholders, program management, tool sets, processes, everything. I mean, everything gets impacted when we are talking about an OCM, organization change. It's done in one day, right? So that's where understand first where the changes are needed. So what is that we currently have as a state? So the approach to this is we do an assessment first. We understand what is the current state, what are our objectives, what tools and practices we are currently adopting, and that's what we want to adopt in future. So as is to a to-be state, we understand the gaps with respect to all the focus areas that we talked about, 8 focus areas, right? And we analyze the gap, we kind of bridge the gaps in a phased manner. So we would have some focus areas getting bridged in for the first pilot. Okay, we will talk about processes and training of people first. So that's the first step we normally take when we are engaged with customers where there is a transformation initiative running through. So process, people is the first area that we target, and then we initiate a pilot project. That's where we would ensure there are limited people involved, very enthusiastic about the processes. Okay, they're very skilled in the way they are working, and that's where we have that controlled execution of the project in a pilot phase. We take the learnings from that in the process area or infrastructure or any of the factors that can trigger a failure, right? We take a feedback on that, bring it back to our table, understand where the gaps have been left out, fill those gaps, and reiterate or do that thing again. So it's a cyclic process where you get the pilot project running smoothly, and that's where you can use the same practices, processes, your reports, everything to a larger scale, from one team to multiple teams, multiple geographies, multiple vendors. So it's a gradual process that we recommend when getting engaged with a number of customers with the transformation initiatives. At the same time, what do we do within these 4 phases that we broadly talked about? So we talk about at different levels, from a program level point of view, at a stakeholder level point of view, and even at the team. We talk about these 4 things: forming, storming, norming, and swarming, right? So we identify what needs to be done, which are the roles needed, who is going to perform these roles, commitment from the team, right? And ensure that there are no issues at the start of the project or at the start of the transformation phase. We do a storming in terms of identifying responsibilities, define values to be delivered by the team, okay? And team identifies how we are going to proceed, okay? So certain basic principles about Scrum and everything can be laid down, but on the ground things might be different, and we have seen across different customers, not all the processes remain the same. So there is a huge amount of variations that we can see across different customers. So let team decide on what is going to work for them, what is not going to work for them. Discuss with the program team or the executive team. Define a norm saying that this is how we are going to succeed now. So after you have tried it, understand that this is how it's going to perform. Make the team aware of this and look forward for a consistent delivery, consistent behavior across multiple sprints. And that's how you would say that, yes, this is the norm I'm going to follow across my delivery all the time, right? And this is where you would start scaling and increase your performance, increase your quality aspect, reduce the turnaround time. Everything would come in the swarming phase, where you are expanding from one team to multiple teams across different areas. So you are going to measure performance across multiple teams. It should be self-managed. Again, it should not be driven by various stakeholders per se. Very transparent in terms of what's happening within the team. So that's where your dashboards and everything would be very clear in terms of what is that the customer is going to expect in the coming sprints or release, whatever is down the line, right? So when I've started with this session, we talked about what is the evaluation of the methodology. We talked about the areas which get impacted from an organization change management point of view. We talked about these 4 steps that we can perform at any level, whether it's at the team, at a program level, or we are talking at an executive level, right? Where do we measure ourselves in an organization? Are we in the very basic stage of agile adoption, or we are looking at that we are quite matured in terms of agile adoption. So there are certain parameters that we can look at where we can understand, do we have a PMO aligned to the agile adoption? Do we have the practices, agile processes, practices aligned to the delivery area? Are we looking at the change in the culture across the different portfolios? Lack of agile awareness, or are they sufficiently aware and have we defined the processes and performed training across the different portfolios? So if you look at the very left, where it's at the very basic stage where there is no defined processes or lack of processes, lack of culture in agile adoption. There is no governance per se to drive this initiative. Whereas if a organization is going to be more mature, if they have an Agile Transformation Program initiative already in place, they have a team who's monitoring this. they have processes defined, may not be that standardized in terms of using that across different portfolios. Maybe in just one portfolio is good enough. They have trainings defined, right? They are aligning themselves to change in the tool sets to be used. They are optimizing on infrastructure. So cloud computing is something that can be used when you are trying to scale. Are they adopting to that? So if the organizations are heading in the right direction, they have the required processes, trainings, tool sets, may not be all, but even few like code reviews per se, something which has started, right? And they have started delivering business value to the customers. So even the customer is where they need to be mature enough. So there might be instances where you will have to educate customers saying that this is how we are going to deliver. This is what we are expecting from you, right? And those alignments, if it's already there, then you're at a stage where you're not efficient enough, but you're not behind as well in Agile transformation maturity. Whereas a very mature organization would have their processes well defined across development, across maintenance projects, support projects. They would be engaged with multiple vendor partners. They would be working in a distributed environment. They have the right tool sets to monitor things in an automated way. They have the complete ecosystem in place to understand, who are aligned to the Agile way of working, right? Maybe it's Scrum, maybe it's Kanban, maybe it's FDD or BDD, right? So it can be different for different projects, but at the matured state, they would have the tool sets to profile a project and understand which methodology to adopt for a new project to be initiated. So that's where we are talking about a very mature organization who are also probably getting aligned to DevOps kind of a scenario where they're moving from development, maintenance, and adding operations into the Agile area. Right? So various steps, number of steps, huge change in mindset, huge change in those focus areas we talked about: management, commitment, tools, infrastructure, people, processes. Everything gets impacted, and everything needs to be addressed in a very gradual, very transparent manner, right? So, and is it simple? It's not, right? We know there are certain set of challenges that we run with, and within the organization change management, it's underestimating. I mean, this is a very important thing that I have seen across customers again, that they have not considered a lot of areas which are getting impacted. So infrastructure is the first that gets hit. They understand that people culture has to change. They understand the process has to change. But infrastructure is something which is left behind. They have not defined the processes, but they would say that let's follow a standard Scrum, which is fine. But are you aligned? Are you looking at all the areas which is going to get impacted when you're looking at a transformation? So that's where an assessment of the business is very important at the very beginning, so that you cater to all the areas which are getting impacted because of the methodology transformation. Continuous involvement of the stakeholders throughout the execution, right? Entire ecosystem needs to get aligned to Agile. And when I say Agile, the ecosystem we talk about, it's all across in infrastructure, DBAs, procurement, your HR, your shipping arrangements within the organization, your communication protocols, and everything has to be aligned to ensure that you have a smooth functioning, right? So tools, as I mentioned, distributed model. When we talk to various stakeholders working in a different time zone, that's the key area where we look at communication and collaboration over a different time zone. So an overlap kind of a scenario is very helpful, or even frequent visits with the customer or when the partners are very important in this area. Very focused metrics to be generated, measurements to be in place to understand, are we meeting our objectives of transformation from an adoption phase to a mature phase, right? So your roadmap should have measurements at every point that will indicate that yes, I am meeting the required objective at this phase. Have the required monitoring and control for every area that is getting impacted. We know, everyone knows that we are talking about a flat structure, multi-skill teams, and giving them, empowering them with making decisions, right? Soft skills, again, we talked about communication, collaboration. That's a major area. And at the very end, every milestone that you met, you are going to finish successfully. You need to really celebrate that. And that's where the motivation kicks in. Every level, from an exec level to the teams itself, you can see that celebration is going to be very important to get them motivated for the next step in the agile journey. So these were the transformation areas we looked at. We looked at which are the focus areas, what are the 4 steps needs to be taken towards agile transformation, what are the key challenges that we face, right? It's again, I would say it's a very gradual process. It takes time. Depending on the size of the organization, it will take time to move from a traditional methodology to a complete agile ecosystem. So, Arnav, this is what I wanted to share with the team on the call, and I'm open for any questions at this point in time.
Thanks for the insightful presentation, Anand. As you've just mentioned, let's quickly take up the questions now. I would request you to read out the questions and their answers so that all our users may listen to your insights. So you would be able to see the questions in the question doc of yours. Are you able to see them?
Yes. So the first question that came in was, when we are saying the individual responsibilities and collective responsibility, how is the individual performance evaluated at the year end, and how we can align the rewards and recognition? Yes. So what were the, so first thing is how flexible an individual is. Is he just focusing, he or she just focusing on the development area and not really getting aligned to the goals of the team? So that's a flexibility that I look at. And obviously the same can be get rewarded in different ways based on the organization, how you're aligned to. You can have project level incentives aligned, and it may not be monetary, it can be even a small certificate kind of a thing. Whereas if I look at from a group point of view, so how is the individual performing along with the peers, right? If a person is having too many questions towards the end of the sprint, that means there is some issue, underlying issue, not able to understand, or the stories are not being well defined. So you really need to judge at what point things have gone wrong. I hope Mini answered that. I answered that your question, yeah. So second question I have here is actually based on the personal experience, the schedule gets increased and with low quality, how you will address the same. So in my project, none of the schedule has increased. Okay, we have added scope, and that's how we are able to have more releases downstream. Quality has improved with the processes that we have, or the best practices that we have adopted. We have used tool sets which would scan your code for quality. So at the same time, we would, in case the quality is really bad and you cannot invest on tools, there are traditional processes that we use from a peer review standpoint that can be done, right? So if you have not, if the team is not aligned to the right processes, then obviously the quality would go bad. And if you are referring to refactoring leading to bad quality, again, then I would suggest that you have the unit test aligned with your project, like writing J units, N units, so that you ensure that what has been coded earlier is not getting broken with the refactoring of because of a new story or optimizing your existing code. How a certification helps in moving to Agile? See, certification is definitely does definitely help to understand the processes. I mean, I can read a book and understand a process, but attending a training and going for a certification really it gives different view, different perspective to what we are thinking. We think about Agile. It's not just about moving to Agile quickly and not performing, right? So you need to understand the various areas, how this is going to impact an individual behavior in Agile or an organizational behavior when they are moving into Agile. So certification does help. So I hope, Shiva, I answered your question. The next question I have is, while transforming to Agile, do I have anything I need to keep on doing from waterfall? Let me understand this question. While transforming to Agile, do I have anything I need to keep on doing from waterfall world, iterative world? Yes, I mean, your quality checks does not change. Your plan does not change. All that you are doing in the traditional way, from a quality delivery point of view, you are still going to continue, right? You are still going to do development. You are still going to do testing. You are still going to do deployment. So everything remains the same. It's the cycle time that changes. It's the efficiency. It's the focus of the team. It's the role of the team that changes. Everything in terms of delivery, you are going to do the same thing, but in a different way, completely different way. So that's what we are still going to carry. Code review, if you don't have a tool, as I said earlier, I'm still going to use peer review mechanism to do the code reviews. So that does not change, even if we are changing methodologies. Another question from Ashwin is, do we need to create test cases in Agile? Yes, definitely. So very much needed test cases. You may not need a test plan, but it's at a high level. You need to understand from a release point of view that what is going to be tested, and from a regression stand, if it's an existing application, what is going to get impacted. So regression test suits, your integration test suits should be there. I mean, you definitely write test cases. Again, how you capture that test cases is going to vary. If you have tool sets, then you're going to use a tool set with the complete traceability to the requirement and even to the defects per se. So yes, test cases are definitely needed. How do manage velocity in changing agile teams? So velocity will definitely get impacted if there is a change in the team composition that's happening, and that should be made transparent to stakeholders, because any dip in velocity is going to impact your average velocity that you're going to commit for, right? And what we have done, or at least I have done, is if I know what is going to come in a release, I would generally induct that person one sprint ahead of what I'm going to get him involved, so that he or she understands the working protocol of the team or the way the team functions. So that's typically I have maintained the velocity. I mean, when I say maintain, it has not dipped. It has probably increased over a period of time. So in a year's time, we have increased from 40 story points to 84 story points in the sprint velocities. I hope, Dinesh, that answers your question. Can we apply Agile methodology to any industry, or it would be applicable to software? Any industry. I can. I know many. I mean, manufacturing is also doing that. Okay, and it's coming from manufacturing as well. So definitely, other industries can adopt to Agile. Construction business we can look at, can be done that way. So yeah, various different domains can use Agile as the way of working. And sprint, if suppose the team missed some stories in such situations, as Scrum Master, how to convince the product owner? So I think that's a communication problem, okay, within the team. If product owner was not aware of being missed, or the target being missed, whenever the team realizes, or the Scrum Master realizes, that we are not going to meet the date, it is very transparent in your sprint burn down that your burn down is not what is expected, and that means you're going to miss the dates. And we have a process in place where we have the sprint grooming that happens, and that's the session we discussed of what is the impact in the current sprint. So we have daily stand-up, which is going to give you the impediment of or why a story is getting delayed, whereas the discussion around replanning or missing the target can happen offline. So I see purely that as a communication issue, where a product owner is really not getting involved with the team, or the team is shielding some information for the sprint burn downs. In sprint, if suppose team is okay, I think Nathan, I answered your question there. What all things happen in a Scrum in Agile methodology? A lot of things happen. It's a complete change in the way we work. We have a time box, 2-week to 4-week cycle. We do all the activities of an SDLC aligned to the definition of done. So if I have defined as definition of done to be coded and unit tested with no defects, then that's my definition of done within that sprint. And the testing team, which probably would be running their independent sprints, will have their own set of activities to be performed for integration testing, user acceptance, regression, and all that. So I think Anukampa, it would be good to read the Agile methodology Scrum, right? And that would help you. It's probably 2 or 3 pages reading what that would help you answer that question more. How do we transform from a simple Agile team to scaling at a enterprise level? So it's number of things that we need to look at. Okay, we are looking at people capability. We are looking at tool sets that you are going to use. Since you are going to scale to a multiple level, are you aligned from a process standpoint, which should cater to distributed environment? Okay, your infrastructure. You ensure the training needed from a process point of view. Your product backlog should be well aligned if you are talking about multiple teams. So you can have a pseudo product backlog for a respective team. Ensure that you can have a very independent kind of stories aligned. Obviously, when we are running a program, that there will be integration issues, but within Agile, the integration issues are going to happen every sprint, and that's where it would be small pieces getting resolved early and on time. So various levers that get impacted when we are looking at scaling from an Agile point of view. I'm just scrolling back because I missed some of the questions here. Amar is asking which is the best suited training to understand Agile, Scrum or ACP. ACP is a long process. I mean, if you want to do that, you can do that. Scrum is quick and simple to understand what the Scrum is. I don't think it depends on an organization. I think it's aligned to what you want to do, right? It's Scrum. If you want to pretty much understand Scrum, then Scrum is good enough. 2 days training and followed by an exam. ACP has a certain guidelines from PMI that needs to be done in order to take that ACP program. Jay Prakash has a question. Feature team is recommended, but when I don't have experts available in one location, example, my project is developing Java SOA APIs as middle tier. It is available only in Europe. Then co-location is compromisable at the cost of distributed teams. I think if your team is in Europe, I think there is a good amount of overlap, right? And if I'm looking at UK, London, it's 4 hours overlap. I think that's very good compared to the US. So co-location definitely helps, but if you're looking at the APIs to be delivered, you can have a better structure of your product backlog so that the APIs are getting done one sprint in advance. Okay, and that's how during the end of the sprint you can have a better handoff during the day as well, right? Because you have a better time, overlap, right? So I don't think you need to really look for a co-location, but maybe my recommendation at this case would be if it is really hitting it hard, then probably you need to revisit your product backlog, understand the dependencies between the product backlog, and if it's in complete architecture kind of a understanding which is needed by the team, then one of your team members probably should can co-locate for a sprint or 2 max, and from either side. From Europe they can come here, or from here they can go there. That does not matter much. But I would really look at the stories that are aligned and try to identified those different dependencies for actual code versus your architectural APIs. How forming, storming, and norming as swarming is different, then it's similar to that. It's tangible difference in terms of what is the outcome of it. Okay, so plan, do, check, act is for every action that we do. We can plan, do, check, and act. Right? It's forming, storming, norming is a cycle where you may just stop at a point in time where from swarming, where you can just extrapolate it to multiple teams. So whereas plan, do, check, act is a cyclic effect for everything that we are going to do. Is suitable for agile model for product backlog application. Agile is very much suitable for products. I mean, even big companies who have product deliveries, for example, Microsoft itself, even they have patches delivered in agile processes. So every sprint you can see something getting delivered into production. So a monthly patch gets delivered from Microsoft, if you are aware of that. So yes, very much product application-based applications you can have delivered in Agile methodology. You can deliver a feature and keep on adding that. I worked on an application, a product which is a trading product, and they have delivered in a very beautiful fashion to the customers. It's a product to be more on an ASP model, application service provider. Who creating user stories, whether PA or team. It is the responsibility of the product owner, but if product owner is aligned to multiple teams, then I would induct a person, be a person into the team who is going to help product owner manage the things, right? So it's more of a pseudo product owner for the given Scrum team. What is the role of tester in daily meeting while forming? So look at what the tester does, and the tester does write test cases, understands the functionality, execute tests, probably not on the day one, but day one he's going to write the test cases. Day 2, day 3 is going to understand a particular feature, small feature delivered by the developer, and that's how he or she can test it. So the activities that we were doing traditionally has become smaller, okay, in terms of the time frame, and doing small bits and pieces on a daily basis. So role of a tester does not change, and the tester itself should get more cross-functional, rather start looking at things from a developer's point of view. It's more of a collaboration with the developer rather than tester saying that my only responsibility is to find bugs. In Agile, it's you have to find bugs. You better do that. At the same time, you also help developers ensure that the functionality is up to the mark and work more collaboratively. What is the use of story points and poker planning? Story points is basically to understand your velocity, okay? And poker planning is basically helps to identify that all the team members are on the same page. So it does not matter whether I'm talking about 5 story points or 8 story points, but collectively across the team should understand that we are talking about the same thing in terms of the quantum of work, in terms of complexity, in terms of functionality to be delivered. So all those parameters are considered to arrive at a story point. So, and everyone should be very clear on and uniform thoughts on the story point. And that's what planning poker really helps understand the differences. If a team member says 2 story point versus 8 story points, then there is a huge gap where you try to reduce the gap by opening for a discussion of what you have missed or what you have over considered, right? And that's where poker planning helps. Story point is basically helping you to understand your capacity or the velocity to be picked up in the next sprint.
Sorry to interrupt, Anand.
Planning, I would say.
Yes. So due to time constraint, I have to request you to take the unanswered questions offline, which I will share with you through email. So if you would like to sum up the session for now, you can do it.
Okay. So basically, I would like to thank everyone for joining the session, and I hope people on the phone understood what are the areas to be considered when they are looking at an agile transformation for their organization or customer organization, or even on their project. So you can start from your project itself by following certain best practices. That's also a small step towards the transformation. So again, I thank everyone for joining this session, and if you have any questions, you can definitely email me, or you can send your questions to me, or post your questions whenever you get time.
And I'm really thankful to our guest speaker today for conducting this wonderful webinar. It was indeed a great session. I would also like to thank all our participants for their support in making this webinar a success. The recording of the webinar will be available on techgig.com by tomorrow. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Anand, for taking the time out and having us. I hope you have a great evening ahead. You're most welcome, Anand.
You too. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.